Oh, no.
I can't
All
hardly see
right.
them.
We are live. Welcome, everybody, and welcome to my first hosting this ladies' night panel. And I want to welcome all my ladies that have joined and welcome everybody in the chat. Bug Out, introduce yourself first. Or not. Whoops.
Whoops.
All right, Yoda, you go.
All right, guys. I'm Yoda. Some of you know me as Angela or Angie. And so we're Grumpy Acres Farm. And we do have a YouTube channel. You can come over there and follow us there. We also have grumpyacresfarm.com. We sell a lot of our goods around here and freeze-dried food and all kinds of stuff. So try to make sure that you have healthy chef options with low sodium and everything natural as much as possible from the farm. So you can go there and then check it out. We also have several affiliate links that you can go to and get your RockPot, get your sun oven. Those are back in stock. And also foodforestnursery.com. You can go there and you can see all of our codes in the About Information page. So you can follow us on all of that. And yeah, so we have been homesteading now for, I'm going to say 18 years. No, it hasn't. We've been prepping for 18 years. Well, Garen has. It took me a little bit to get on board. And then our goal when we finally got into homesteading and trying to do everything on our own, it's been about 10 years. So 10 years that we've been doing it. And now we just travel around and speak about how we got out of the system, off the system. We had a decision to make. My husband was going to be forced to take the jab in order to keep his job. So we sold a operating homestead, got rid of it, sold everything, found a dilapidated farm in Northeast Kansas. And here we are rebuilding all over again. So this is who we are. This is what we do. And on our channel, we talk politics, cooking, and show you a little bit of what we're doing and hoping that we can encourage you to do the same thing. Choose freedom over what the system wants you to do. That's who we are.
All right, Kelly, you tell us everybody about your channel a little bit.
Okay. Hi, I'm Kelly. I am one half of the Prepping Artists. I do the channel. It's the Prepping Artist with my husband, Rambo. He's saying hi for a minute, but he's not allowed to do this because it's all women today. But we're a little bit different. We have not been prepping for a long time. I just recently got into it after the COVID happened. So in 2020 is when we started. So, and we started our channel only about a year and a half ago. So we're fairly new to it. What we're doing is kind of taking you along for the ride, what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong, things like that. I mean, you're going to make mistakes in prepping. There's just you're going to do something different and be like, oh, I should have done it this way or whatever. So I'm not afraid to show you guys things that I've done that maybe I didn't do them the best way possible, but if it gets the job done, then that's all that matters. And that's kind of what we talk about. We live over in East Texas. So just to let you guys know, we've had some bad storms and stuff coming through here. So if we get out of the chat or something, it's because we lost power or something like that. So hopefully it won't be any problems, but you never know. We've lived in this house for almost a year. It'll be a year in August, and we are doing a lot of stuff. We're having to do all of our fencing. We got chickens. We just finally, hopefully, we got the chicken coop situation figured out because we were losing a lot to, I don't know if they were either raccoons or coyotes. I'm still not sure, but we haven't lost the chicken in, gosh, a week and a half, 2 weeks or something. So that is good. So we're just, doing stuff in the outside, trying to get a little small homestead going on and just showing you guys our process. We also are going to start doing again on Thursday nights. We do our live streams, and we're going to, we used to use these cards, Conflicted is what the card's called, and they're like scenarios about different situations, and we're going to start doing those up again. Hopefully this Thursday we can start doing that. So those are always a lot of fun because it's like just, get you thinking about what would you do in a certain situation and stuff.
Hey, Kelly, real quick.
Yes.
So the conflicted cards, conflicted cards are no longer available. It is now WROL. And
I've got WROL too, but I've also got conflicted cards, and I just ordered another deck. I can get them off of Amazon.
Don't do that anymore. Don't do that. Email me, and I'll get with you, and I will get you with David in them, and we'll make you an affiliate, and then get you your cards.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
Make a little money, right? Capitalize a little
bit. Sounds good. Okay.
All right, Bug Out. Tell us about yourself. Introduce yourself and tell us about your channel, all that.
Well, hello, baby. I'm Bug Out Adventures. My channel, initially, I started it with anything that I could possess or portray as non-compliance, 100% with anything. Well, of course, it morphed. Then it became more of herbal remedies and survival skills and things like that. Morphed again into mindset. And it's pretty much a reflection of myself on either what I have done, what I have gone through, what I'm going through. And a lot of times I think, man, if I am thinking about this kind of stuff and feeling this kind of way and experiencing this kind of thing, I'm sure there's at least one or two other people out there out of 8 billion doing the same thing. And so my channel has pretty much gone to the mindset of prepping, survivalism, bushcraft, recognizing the propaganda, recognizing ways that we have all been brainwashed into thinking certain things have to be done a certain way, and catching those little innuendos where they kind of slide that stuff in, standing on your own 2 feet, thinking for yourself, and pretty much grabbing the bull by the horns and not taking no shit.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, right. I mean, well, let me, that's with everything encompassing. I don't homestead. I never had a homestead. So that's kind of, that's something that I do want to get together with and do with Tomcat and everything. And we're going to do that. So I think this is a wonderful learning experience for me too, with these wonderful ladies, man.
Yes. And so then about my and All Americans channel, we are doing those cards, those scenario cards. I even have a playlist. And for everybody out there, I'm still doing the cards. You can just comment on them, and we're getting stuff together so we can do the prizes for people. And I'm also, like Bug Out, you said natural remedies, and Yoda, you do natural remedy stuff too. Yeah. I love that kind of stuff, and I'm reading out of this book, The Last Frontier Handbook. In that book also has tons of natural remedy stuff. So I'm just reading it, and I know my video quality is terrible because I'm reading it through the phone and trying to like follow it, and it's not too well, but I like doing it though.
You do well. You do well with it. I enjoy those that you put up. I enjoy those.
Thank you. Oh yeah, and everybody, all the people, they can enter the game for this scenario, so that later on we're going to do the prizes for them. So one of the things that each one of y'all a little bit went into is prepping. So coming from a lady's point of view, and a lot of as a mother's family point of view as well, is prepping. How are we prepping for the family as well? Yoda, why don't you go ahead with that one starting?
Prepping for the family can be extremely overwhelming. And this is where a lot of people freeze up and they get paralysis by fear is what we call it. And so they'll just immediately stop because they think it's a lot of money. It's a lot, you're just going through. The best thing we ever did to prep for the family, and I've got grandbabies, so I have to think times 3, right? So us, kids, grandkids, and really, if you think about it, my folks, if they can get here. So, so 4 generations is what we're going to have here. So what I did is I would make several trips every time I had a little bit of money, just set aside whatever we had, and I would go to Dollar Tree, of all places, Dollar Tree. And I would make sure that, because we use reader glasses, my dad has glasses, I've got glasses, eventually our kids, because it's in their bloodline, well, our daughters and contacts. So we need to make sure that we have several different with the prescriptions on there. So I just pulled a whole bunch as we could, and I got one of those big blue 55-gallon barrels that has the screw on top, and they've got the rim in them. Here we're pretty lucky because of all of the factories for like Johnsonville and all of that. And so we know a lot of people that work there, so we can get those, clean them out, dry them out, and then do that. We put sheets, underwear, clothes. Socks is one thing a lot of people miss. You cannot have enough socks. And so, you got to make sure you have warm socks. You got to make sure you have cool socks, that kind of thing. Feminine products, you got to remember that, because even if you have young children, they're going to come of age. And so when that happens, you want to be able to transition them into a harder time, as my grandparents would call it. It might be some of you the same age, but a little bit older than you. So I try to make sure that I have enough on hand so that I can transition any of the grandchildren into what our grandparents would call red flag baby. And so, it's pretty hard. Easier on a homestead and farmland, harder on kids coming from the city, right? And so we need to make sure that we transition them in really good. Some of the other things I did, making sure that what is the cheapest way that you can get things together, but make sure you're getting enough calories into everybody. Rice, beans, all kinds of stuff. So if you can think around that. Mylar bags. Try to find somebody who has the 5-gallon Mylar bags that gets them, like I can pick them up wholesale. So basically everybody in the community that we've built, I can grab those Mylar bags and say, okay, here's what shipping was. This is what every bag breaks down to. How many bags do you want? And then we order those by the hundreds, sometimes thousands. And we would also do and make sure we were hitting the Amish communities and the Mennonite communities. So they usually have like a Dutch pantry or something like that. You can get there the 50-pound bags. You don't want the wheat or the already ground flour because that's going to expire within 10 years. So if you do it right, 30 years is what you're going to get off the wheat seed. So I would go in, I would call David up, and I would say, hey, I'm going to need this many bags. And there was one time G and I drove out there, man, Grumpy was grumpy because we were driving on ice to get it, but David already had it on the skid, so, and wrapped up and ready for us. And so we ended up driving an hour. It was an hour there and an hour back with 2,000 pounds of wheat berries on the back of the truck. And so if you can build a community where you guys are buying that together, that 50-pound bag at the time was $17 versus you going in there and buying it for $35 right now, right? So if you, the more you can try to get in bulk, the cheaper it's going to be, and you can prep better for your family. You also need to think about hygiene. Dollar Tree has this really great thing, and I think they do still have it. And you can go in, and it's actually like the bentonite clay, but it's got baking soda and all that stuff, and it's the dry powder toothpaste. So regular tubes of toothpaste are not going to store very well. You might risk a little bit explosion during flexibility of heat and cold and all of that. So, and pressure and that kind of thing, right? We're in tornado country, so the pressure does change. And so you need to think about all these things. And so what we did with extra clothes, sheets, bedding, blankets, all of that, what we did is I took a vacuum seal bag. And so the big ones that you can just hook up to the vacuum cleaner, put everything in there and just threw it all so that I could get the barrels full as much as I can. Now, I understand you have to have storage for that stuff. So you just figure out a place, make sure it's weather tight, and then figure it out. It's clothing, it's hygiene, it's that kind of stuff. So you can go ahead and do that. It was very interesting to me. I actually got a phone call from our son. And one of the police officers that he worked with, she had just had a baby. And her baby was 2 months old. And terrible allergies, in and out, ended up getting COVID, in and out of the hospital. So breastfeeding was out for her. So she was looking for formula, and she happened to be complaining to my son and said, I cannot afford on a police officer's salary to be paying $80 a can for baby formula. And that is what it is. It's expensive. And so he called me up and he said, hey, Mom, he said, did you happen to set aside any baby formula? And so that's also something that you need to think about. And there's a way to seal it up and that you can really get that and get it going so that it's going to sit. It's freeze dried, right? Another thing to remember is raw milk. So either get a source for raw milk or get you an A2 cow if you have the land to do that. And so an A2 cow, the only thing you need is a female cow that's pregnant. So whether you find the female cow and then you get it IA'd, and you could do it that way and then hope that she has a heifer, and then you just keep milking her and then get her AI'd again until you get your bull, and then, kind of do that thing. So that's something in these times right now that we can be thinking of and doing. Another great one that doesn't take a lot of land to think about is getting, and I'm talking about this, and stop me if you don't want me to go this far, but the ultimate goal of a prepper is to get to homesteading. So stop me if you need me to stop. And so, but the other goal is to what takes up, what's more compact that takes up less land. I only have 10 acres. I only have 5 acres, something like that. What takes up a small bit of land? Well, those are your dairy goats. Your dairy goats are edible and they're also milkable. So if you can get the dairy goats in there, great one is a Nubian. The boys are big and stocky, and so they're great. They'll still fit on the grill. So you can eat those up and then put them away, whether you can them, freeze dry them, whatever you want to do. And so those are great for the Nubians. And the girls will always produce you anywhere between 3/4 of a gallon. And we had one that was actually giving us 1.5 gallons every day. So that's something to think about too.
Man, I love goat milk. Y'all got goats?
Yeah, we have goats. We do goats and sheep and turkeys and guineas and ducks and chickens.
Ooh, yeah.
The whole 9
Yeah.
yards. So we're getting ready to pull.
Yoda, I'm sorry. I was going to stop you there for a little bit because I want to also finish out the other ladies with prepping, and then we'll get back with homesteading.
You're good.
All right. Callie, what is your thing on prepping? And then remember, we'll go to homesteading later.
Okay. For the prepping, see, I've only been doing this for like 4 years, which, I'm kicking myself in the butt for not starting sooner. But in that 4 years, I have learned a heck of a lot. We have moved from the city. We've moved to the country. We're in a very small town out in the country. I've only got about 2 acres, but it's enough to do what you need to do with it. The hardest thing I'm having right now, honestly, is my family on board. My husband's on board, obviously, because he does the channel with me and stuff. But I've got an 18-year-old daughter and a 15-year-old son. They kind of think that I'm crazy. And every time, like, my daughter came into the prep room the other day, she saw the stuff and she's like, why are you doing this? You're crazy. There's still food on the shelves, everything's fine. Nothing is going to happen, and I'm like, I just wish somehow that I could just wake them up and realize, but I mean, they're going to be thanking me, later. It might be a month from now. It might be a year from now, but they're going to be thanking me.
Well, Callie, for one thing, you could tell them to start paying attention, going to the grocery store with you. and tell them like, hey, look at this price on this item right here. In like a week or two, look at the same item at the price of how much it will go up or whenever. And then that was one way you can try to get them on the prepping thing of, see, when I bought it before, we could save so much money.
Mm-hmm.
So even like if they work and maybe it's something they like, I know it's probably not food related or prepping what we need, but if like your daughter wants to buy some makeup or something, if she's into that, buy it this eyeshadow this 1 week and then see like in a little bit later how much your eyeshadow was. But yeah, little things to even just get them start thinking about it.
Another idea, Kelly, just real quick, what we do is we put together bug out kits. We do 5-gallon buckets, and we put everything in there that we want for the kids to have on hand, and then seal it up, make sure it's good to go, make sure it's labeled with everything in there, and that is a Christmas item that they each get every year. So they're forced to store it, and it's forced on hand to them. They won't get rid of it. So there's an idea for you too.
Yeah, I'm trying to take them to the store. I'm trying to show them different things and how much stuff costs. I give them, like, I don't know if this isn't even really prepping related because they don't buy prepping foods, but like I'll give them every 2 weeks, I'll give them so much money and say, here, you take this money is going to last you 2 weeks worth of food, besides like when I cook dinners and things like that. But this is going to last you like for lunches and snacks and stuff like that. So you need to make it last. And usually it lasts them about 1 week instead of 2 weeks. So they're realizing how expensive things are because they're going through it so fast and stuff.
But they're not rationing either.
They're not. So. Exactly. And like my daughter will keep telling me, she's like, yeah, but right now we have food, so we don't need to worry about that. She'll be like, well, let's go get a pizza. And I'm like, no, that costs money. I don't want to spend that right now. She's like, but you have the money right now and we're not out of food. You can go, and it's like, they're just not getting it through their head that they need to get used to this, because when it does get bad, they're not going to be able to handle it and not be, used to it. And that's where I'm having a really hard time with them right now on that.
Well, even with this hurricane that you're having right now, that is, Florida, we are known for our hurricanes. And so a lot of people, they don't even prep for these hurricanes coming up. You even just have a little hurricane box of a little bit of canned food, batteries, lights. So that's maybe one way to get them started, is just saying, hey, we're going to prep for this hurricane coming up.
Kelly, I got a suggestion. It may not be the best suggestion. It's kind of outside the box. Cut them off. Cut them off. Say, you know what? You should have prepared. You should have saved some money instead of spent it all. Now what are you going to do? Cut them off. That's what I did with my kids. Now, it was rough and it was tough, but that's the only way that I know. I've been on my own since I was 13. I have no other choice than to figure it out for myself with no help whatsoever. You know what? Oh, we got beans and rice this week. You don't like it? Maybe you should have prepared a little bit better with that money that I'm giving you and bought the stuff that you wanted. Cut the electricity off for 24 hours. See how they cope with no electricity.
I thought about doing that. Yeah, I thought about doing that.
Yeah, and wake them up in the middle of the night, scare the shit out of them. Say, look, we got to go now.
Take this away.
Yeah. Now I took my granddaughter's cell phone away. I told her, her only job was to make good grades and not get in no trouble, right? Well, that cell phone had a lot to do with her anxiety and her stress too. She told me after I took it away for like 12 weeks. And I told her, this is a privilege, not a right. I said, don't think that you want a right, go to work and pay for it yourself. It's a little rough on some of these kids, because I raised my kids that we were prepping from day one, because that's all I've known how to do. I've got to have something for tomorrow. I got to figure out how I'm going to eat tomorrow, not just today, but tomorrow too. So, my kids always see me upcycling, recycling, what they used to, normally what they call hoarding, but everything has to have a couple of purposes, and so they grew up kind of rough. But now you're talking about getting the kids on board. Mine are in their 30s, and through their college years, you know what I'm saying? They start thinking I was crazy, this, that, and the other. Well, it's starting to come around. They're like, Mom, what do I do? And I'm like, well, you better get your ass on board. Is what you better do. Because it's not easy. I say, if you can't do it right freaking now, if you can't do anything that you're talking about right now, you're not going to be able to do it then. We want to get ahead of that curve. And so that's why I've told him, I said, you've got to get beans and rice. If just basic beans, rice, gallon of water, salt, pepper. That's it. Now my son, he went to the store and he was talking about the meat is so expensive. And I told him, I said, well, look, boy, I done told you 4 years ago when all that hoo-ha started that you better start stocking up and getting the damn cow. Now you're spending $250 on 2 pork chops and a chicken leg. What's up? I said, don't come to me whining and crying. Get on board. And so, I mean, it takes a little tough love on some of that stuff.
Yeah, and my kids are so picky and stuff too with food. It's ridiculous, and they can't be like that. And I told them that the next animal that we were going to get was I was going to get rabbits for meat. And they were like, "What? You're going to eat?" Yeah, that's what people do. And they're like, "Oh no," so
Oh yeah,
they're steady.
I have an Italian roasted rabbit recipe that does a rabbit sausage inside of it with the tenderloins. Oh man, I blew people away at the table. They had no idea what they were eating. They're like, "Oh, this is delicious," and I'm like, "Well, thank you."
Well, that's what I think. If they don't know what it is, then they'll probably just eat it and be like, "Oh, it's just chicken or something." I don't know.
Yeah.
So.
And my granddaughter, my youngest sorry to interrupt, but talking about chicken. She's here, and the youngest one here. She was raised not by me, but other places, and her whole staple is McDonald's chicken nuggets. I told her, I said, you might as well get you a 3D printer and print your own damn chicken nuggets. I said, because that's what you're eating. But she starved when she was here. She's freaking starved. I was like, well, I don't know what to tell you, girl. I guess you be hungry.
So Kelly, it seems like you and Yoda need to get some recipes for the rabbit from her.
Yeah, sounds like it.
Yeah. All right. So Yoda, I'm going to go back now with you for the homesteading, and then we'll circle around again with homesteading. You were talking earlier about how different things you have homesteading going on. So I was going to let you go on with that. Different things maybe you have.
Sure. So what we did, and like I said, we're basically starting all over again, and so we'll only be here 3 years in October, and so this land was pretty much almost dead, and we are just now almost into the 3 years. And finally waking up happy. We're doing homestead stuff again. It doesn't feel like everything is repair and panic trying to replace and all of that. And so we're finally seeing the life come back. And it's always good to have. So like I said before, your ultimate goal should be going from prepping to homesteading, because it's easier to store. This is my thought anyway. It is easier to store food on the hoof than it is to stack buckets and take up space that you need, especially if you have family members or friends that their bug out plan is to come to you, right? Because they're also contributing. So we've been known to do things like cow shares around here. We do community work days where we will get together and then we'll do a bunch of rabbits. We'll do 150 chickens. Everybody bring your chickens and then get them together. And then we, distribute and do whatever, do all that. That saves time. We can do 150 chickens in about 2.5 hours. And so we've got that down pretty damn pat. And then what we'll do is we'll butcher one day and then put them in a cooler on ice, let them all rest. And then the next day, so you're looking at, I don't know, however you guys want to do that. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or Saturday, Sunday, Monday. We have a lot of different religions in here, so you'll have some not be able to make it if they're doing it on their land. So it's important that if it's a Sabbath day, it's on somebody else's land. And so you'll learn that as you build your community and do all that. So then we also have many people that have acres of garden and acres of all kinds of stuff. Again, we do a community day. So maybe one day will be everybody bring your onions, tomatoes, peppers, and we're going to do just salsa that day. Or we're just going to process XYZ. So let's do that. Back to the chicken, because I think I went off with a squirrel and I apologize. So one day is butcher, the next day is to quarter everything down and then get it all stuffed into jars, can everything up, and then the day after that will be broth and canning that up. So it was interesting because I had somebody come over, and when we first moved here, and he knocked on the door and he said, "Hey, I met you before," and we were introduced by a mutual friend, and he said, it was interesting because as I looked at him, I couldn't believe he was asking what he asked. And he looked at me and he said, "Okay," he said, "we've watched your videos and we know you know how to can." And he said, "all of our grandmothers did it. We didn't pay attention because we were too busy bucking cows and, dealing with the hogs and doing all this stuff. We just took advantage of what was happening in the kitchen." And I said, "Okay." And he said, "would you give us a canning class?" And so that's how it all began, with the communities coming together to do all of that. I was literally one woman teaching 21 cowboys. And these were all farmers, ranchers. Our one neighbor, he's actually an ex-bull rider, a great rodeo star. He's retired now, but he raised bulls for PBR, and now that's what he does. He sells them. Watching them buck those out is amazing to me, but that's a sidetrack. So doing that is important, and then getting all that together. What that also does is, as you have new preppers that are coming in and trying to join the community and doing all of that, you guys are building a relationship and you're figuring all that out. So when you start doing that and you become a community, what happens is you start learning from each other, right? I didn't know anything about bulls. I didn't know anything about cows. Now I do. And so when I saw the Dexter, we have friends in the community that are doing Dexters, and I was like, holy smoke, because we weren't sure we had the area for Dexters. And I looked at her and I said, we really do have room for Dexters, don't we? I don't have to have a dedicated 40 acres in order to put Dexters on here. And she was like, no, girl. She said, you do not. And so now I know we can pull Dexters on. But our first goal is to pull the hogs on. And so we're working with one of our neighbors, community members, in order to get that done and pull that in. So just getting your food in and then getting that done. I have a lot of people that say, well, we have to keep our chickens locked up. We can't do anything. And like, well, if you started raising your chickens with them locked in, then yeah, they're not going to be able to survive. You're not going to free range them. It's going to be much more expensive for you to feed those chickens than it is for me. And so, we'll throw a little grain to make sure babies are getting nutrition and all that stuff. But for the most part, it's making sure that we get the best birds and the strongest birds so they know how to forage. And, sometimes it's like watching a bunch of pterodactyls go across our land. You see bugs flying in there and they're like, zoom, over it. And it's funny to watch. And so, but they're the fattest damn birds I've ever seen. I've got birds out there that I need to get butchered because they've got to weigh. They're probably going to end up weighing out 13, 14 pounds. So I got to get them in heart attacks. So, so it's things like that. It's, do you have a spot that you can put a pond in? And so when you dredge the pond, if you don't have one, when you dredge the pond, or if you have one and it was just no good like ours was, and you get that pond dredged and then dug out, be aware it may take 2 years before you get enough rain to fill it up. We just got that blessing this year. Unfortunately, it was somewhat full at the time that we bought it, and I ended up putting $350 worth of fish in there that probably have not survived. So we'll see. But there was life in the pond yesterday. In fact, I got in trouble because Grumpy thought that I went and bought a mama duck and some ducklings. And so as he was on the skid steer, he saw this mama duck and ducklings swimming around in the pond. And he came in, he's like, I got to talk to you. And so I was like, what? And he goes, did you go buy a mama duck and babies? And I was like, no, I got the babies from Tracy. She just gave me those. And he's like, you didn't bring a mama duck home? And I was like, no. I told her no because she was trying to give us one. And so I was like, no, I didn't bring it home. And he's like, walk with me right now. So we walked out to the pond. Sure enough, there's a mama duck and the ducklings there. And here's what's really funny, because he does a lot of the hard work on the land, right? So he looked at me and he goes, what is that? What do you see right out there in that pond? And I was like, well, it's a woodland duck. It's a woodland duck with her babies. She's not going to stay here. She's nesting. Let her raise her babies. She's going to fly away. And so this is not a big deal. And he looked at me and goes, are you sure? And I was like, yeah, because as women, we have to take on the responsibility, and we have different responsibilities, right? So sometimes not. If you don't have a partner with you, a partner in crime with you, then you're doing it on your own, and it's a lot. But if you have a community, you can build through that and do that. But we have designated jobs, I guess I would say, here. And so G sees therapy in a lot. Like right now, he's grazing the goats and sheep right now. And so he'll sit down in the chair, enjoy the scene, and do all that. That's his deal. If he needs help, I'll go and do it. So you have to be flexible and be able to change your schedule, right? But when it comes to vetting and it comes to the husbandry and, you know, making, if nobody knows what that is, the breeding and who you're going to breed and how you're tagging them, how you're recording them, all of that to make sure that everybody is sturdy and you're getting the best stock and the strongest stock, that lands on me. He doesn't have time to do that. And so the recording and all of that, that lands on me. So we have to understand that there are different jobs. And, you know, just like I said, he's out on a skid steer. He's out doing the tractor or whatever. I can do all of that. So if I need to do it, I can go and do it. But my role is best served making sure the house is clean, making sure that he's comfortable in here. And it's not that I'm being like, I have to be submissive or anything like that, because anybody who knows me knows I am not submissive. And if you've watched our videos, you're probably cracking up laughing right now. And anybody who has stayed with us, like I guarantee you, Staines Girl is probably rolling on the floor right now. And, you know, we don't put up with each other's BS, but that's what makes it healthy. Because when we were trying to, with that move that we made, it was very difficult. We had a homestead that we had been working on. We were just getting ready to pull cows in. We had the hogs on. We had all the poultry in. We had everything there. The rabbits, I mean, you should have seen what we had for the rabbits. And so we had everything there. All we needed to do was the cows. And then the government did the stupid thing that they did. And so he said, my husband went to Whitworth Military Academy. He graduated, went into the Marine Corps. And, you know, from the Marine Corps, he had a job, you know, in a hospital and that kind of thing, but then went back to get our retirement. We rebought our retirement. He was working for DOD. And so DOD said, nope, you got to have your shot. So we gave up our retirement. We gave up everything. That was stressful because he felt his job was to make sure to take care of the family. So I started to do things to accommodate him, to make him feel better, and I started getting resentful. And then as he was noticing I was doing without things, he was getting resentful and he was getting angry, and we weren't communicating with each other. So anybody who's planning on making this transition, and Kelly, you probably know, you guys have made this transition. I'm not sure how hard you did it at One Lake, but I know what it is to go from the city to the country. And so when you're doing all of that, it is extremely stressful, and it can, if you don't communicate with each other and you don't figure out how to make sure that you just say, okay, I've had enough, it's time to walk away, you're too stressed. And then give it 5 minutes and come back and say, hey, would this solution work better? And maybe he says, well, I would like it if it was this way, but maybe we can compromise here. That works out a lot better. So we figured out we don't have to get a divorce. We don't have to ruin over 32 years of marriage. We can actually go ahead and communicate to each other and then make sure that we're on the same page. And you're not always going to be on the same page. but you have to be flexible. If you are not flexible in homesteading, you are not going to make it, because nothing goes perfect. You will be inside one project and something else bad is going to happen somewhere else, and you're going to have to fix that. And then the most important thing that we always say, because we get so tired of throwing money into equipment around here, it's going to happen, you're using it. And so thank God we have equipment to fix. And so, you have to remember that, so that you're not getting upset and you're not getting angry. But then here's where it comes in, and where your homestead now is working for you. You create a side hustle. So once you get that side hustle, whether that's private cooking now, and so what Bug Out cooks, right? Is that what I understand? So Bug Out's cooking. So maybe that means that you're not homesteading, but maybe you find somebody in the community that is, and now you can cater to private chefing, and you can make sure that you're getting healthy farm fresh meals to other people. Other people, like the ones that are in the liberal cities, they're going to pay bank for that. I just sold 2 dozen cinnamon rolls for $100. And so, this is how you do it. So you make your side hustle, you make your farmstead work for you. I can take one of my breasty chickens and I can butcher it out, wrap it up, take the trailer with the freezer on it, which we have another community member that's working on that for me, take it to farmer's market, or just go ahead and advertise CSA to places like Lawrence and Topeka and all of that. And do you know that they'll give me $100 per chicken because it's an American breast? Wow. Any other chicken that is just a farmyard chicken, it's $35 a chicken. Mm-hmm. So, so these are the things you start figuring out how to make your homestead work for you, right? Our men don't have time to do a lot of that. That is our job. And so when you get up to the point that you're homesteading, it becomes more difficult. So you have to figure out what you enjoy, because if you don't enjoy it, you're going to hate it. And if you hate it, you won't do it. And if you're afraid of it, you're going to have paralysis by fear, and then nothing will work out. So that's probably the best advice that I have on homesteading. And I hope it works for everybody. And if you have any questions, because I know we're all going to throw a lot at you, if you have any questions, email us at therealgrumpyacres@gmail.com. And so email us, and I'll be glad to walk you through it. No problem.
Yeah. Kelly, what do you tell us a little bit about? I know you said a little bit earlier about your homestead, but go over a little bit your homestead and what do you think about things about that?
Yeah. Well, we started prepping. We were in the city. We've lived in the city pretty much all of our lives. This is the first time we've moved out to the country, and we've been out here for about a year. It is a lot different. We decided that it was a good time for us to be able to move, to get out in the country. I know that not everybody can do it. People have jobs, different things that are keeping them tied to a city and stuff. Where's my phone? But I know that if you can get out of a city and get to a country, you don't need a ton of land to do a mini homestead, at least in my opinion. I mean, others might think you need 10, 20 acres or something. We are making it work with what little land we have. We are planning it very well. So what we have, we have our chicken coops up in the back, and you were talking about like one project you were working on, and then something happens with something else. Well, we had the chicken coop completely done. It was all fenced off. Everything was good. And then he started working. We want to get some horses. So he started working on the horse corral and the stables. And that's his thing. He loves to do the outside. We're using a lot of pallets to build things and make it cheaper. We get pallets really cheap from a guy, and he delivers them to us, and we use that. Or we get free scraps of wood and stuff and use that kind of stuff. So he loves doing that. Well, he was working on that. And then all of a sudden, chickens started. There were feathers all over the place. I couldn't figure out what was happening. And I still don't know 100% what was getting them. I don't know if it was a raccoon or coyote. But at that point, we're like, crap, we've got to do something better with this coop. We've got to get it more secure and figure out what we're doing. I also just bought trail cams, so I need to get those set up out there, and hopefully we can see. But we just built it up higher. We put more fencing around it. We put the tarps to make sure they're cool and everything. And so far, It's been like a week and a half. We haven't lost any more chickens, so I'm hoping that we don't. But that was one.
Were the heads taken off of them?
No, that's the thing. People said that if it was a raccoon, that their heads would be around. There was nothing left to them at all. Their whole body was gone. Their heads were taken.
Fox.
So I don't. What?
Fox. You got fox.
A fox? You
Fox.
think?
Fox. Yep, it's a fox.
Probably
I-
a little red.
You
I
got a
haven't
den
seen them
somewhere close.
around here.
You
Huh.
what?
I haven't seen any foxes around here, but I have heard that we do have them around here.
Yeah, you got a den somewhere close. She's probably got kits, and so she's teaching them how to hunt. So be careful; it's not over. But
Oh,
you
no.
can,
Okay.
just keep them locked up, and then once they figure out that there's no food for them, it take a couple days because her importance is she's got to feed those kits, so she'll move on to somebody else's place. And then once you do that, you can go ahead and open it back up. Have you thought about a
Okay.
guardian dog too?
Yeah, I'm looking into getting one for them too. And then I also got a trail cam I got to get put up because it doesn't really help me a lot if I don't know for sure what it is. But with what you're saying, and everybody's been saying that the raccoons would leave their heads behind or something. So that's why I was thinking coyote, but now you're saying fox. So it's got to be one of those two. But we've got turkeys too. And we're going to get some more turkeys too. So we're working on that kind of stuff. We got our garden going. Although this year, I will say, it didn't work out. We had way too much rain and stuff, and it was our first year really trying to do gardening. So we failed, but you know what? We're going to go at it again and keep going until we succeed. I mean, it's learning. Like I said, coming from the city to the country is like it's almost a whole different planet. I mean, we moved from Houston area, so that's a really large city, really large area, to a town that has less than 2,000 people in it, out in the country. So it's
Yeah.
it's way different.
A big surprise we had on the chickens. We didn't know chickens climb trees.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that might be what's helping them too, is they've been climbing the trees at night. They've been getting up as high as they can up on the trees. I think they learned from whatever got them or something. But can foxes climb trees?
I've never seen one climb them, but I mean, I
No,
don't know.
see if you can find some tracks. They should be leaving tracks. If they're coming pretty regular, look for your tracks and follow your tracks back to where they lead. That's something that's really important. I mean, I don't consider myself a homesteader. I consider myself a survivalist, and all the rest of it comes in the package.
Mhm.
You know, but you can track that animal back and find that den. But you know that if she got kids, she's gonna be pretty aggressive. So
Yeah.
you know, and they usually come out. Them foxes, they're like the coons. They like to come out a little bit late, like 10, 12 o'clock at night, between 12 and 5, you know,
Not
stuff
when
like
they've
that.
got kids. Not when they got kids to feed. I have
Right,
literally
right.
been out in the garden. I've been out in the garden, working the garden, and that damn fox came up right in front of me, and then took a duck, ran back to the den, came right back, took a chicken. You should have heard me screaming.
Oh
Next
my
thing you know,
gosh.
Next thing you know, Garen is like standing up in the kitchen because I'm going in, I'm yelling, I've got the grill going, and he takes the AR-15 and he's out the kitchen door trying to shoot this fox because it's still coming back. And I'm like,
Isn't
no
that
shoot
cool?
in my house. What is wrong with you? But
Oh
they
my
will
gosh.
come out during the day if they've got kids. I'm telling you. Oh yeah, you start homesteading, it's a clown show. I'm telling you. You're gonna have husbands shooting off in the house. You're gonna have all kinds of stuff. We had a fox come in here, and we have a problem because we have hybrid wolves. The lady was raising them, and then
Oh, wow.
I don't know what happened to her, but now they're just running the land. And so, you know, we got wolves running around here. So we have those. We got bobcats, mountain lions, all of that. One of the things that you can do is you can go to your conservation department, and they have maps that has all the paw prints and all of that. And they will just give them to you. You can order them by mail, and I think it's minimal what you pay for. I think you just pay for mail. And then you can go out, identify the track that you have, and then you know what you're dealing with, and you don't have to go back to their den because eventually they will move on. You just got to make sure that you know what you're protecting. Cats are the same way. So cats usually they travel. So you'll have a day or two where it's bad, and then they move on to the next one. So just FYI on that. The conservation department is a great place to get that information from.
Okay.
Yeah, but there ain't nothing like getting out there and doing it yourself and learning, learning.
Oh yeah.
But that's where I come from, is just getting out there and doing it myself. And then if I need backup, I'll ask for it, like through tracking maps and things like that. But yeah, you do have to be careful with them. What I wanted to ask y'all, since y'all are harvesting a lot of meat on y'all's property and stuff, do y'all like keep the furs and stuff like that? How do y'all process those furs, or do y'all sell them or discard them?
Are you talking to me?
Yeah, if either one of y'all, either you or Kelly, y'all like with your rabbits, all that kind of stuff. Do y'all sell every bit of it, every bit of the carcass?
Kelly, you want to
Well,
take that?
we haven't done the rabbits yet. We're getting in the line for it. But one of the reasons that we do want rabbits is because it makes wonderful compost, wonderful to put into the garden. So that's one thing, and you can use it right away. Because I could be wrong on this, but on chicken poo, don't you have to let it set for like a year or something before you use it in the garden?
No.
That's what I heard from someone, but I'm not sure.
A good one to go over to would be Permapasture Farms. Have you ever watched Billy Bond? Billy will walk you through that, but no, it's so there's basically what we do, and especially if we have them in tractors, so we'll let that tractor go. It'll sit for a couple days. Do you guys know what I mean by chicken tractor?
Yeah.
Okay, so we put the chickens in there, and then we move them along. So you'll have, especially if we want one breed to be together and only those breed together, then you'll move that tractor. And so you'll move it every couple of days, and you're going to have one pile, then the second pile, then the third pile. Once you're at the third pile, you can go ahead and take the first pile. And then there's also, so we have compost piles that we do here. So we take all the goat, sheep, chicken poop, everything that we got, everything goes over there. Garen just empties everything out into the skid steer and then drives it over, dumps it, turns it, and after 18 days, that pile's ready to go. So if you'll just take your compost pile, and you're gonna have to make sure that you're stirring it and you got something to stir it with. You can do it by hand. Just don't make them. You can do it by hand. Just don't make them very tall. And so then you just use a pitchfork, and then you could dump it over, because it'll start smoking. And if it's smoking, it's fine. You just don't want it to catch on fire. And so once you get all that done, and we have the first bin and the second bin. And so we always know what we can use from where. In fact, that's what all of our potatoes are buried in right now, is piles. I believe he took the compost and then just made mounds and put everything in there. And potatoes are doing great. So, no, you don't have to wait a year. Now, if something got crossed and they were talking about human manure, then that's when you start getting into first year, second year, etc., third year. So that's where you're looking at compost from years. But we don't human manure around here. I do have friends that do that. I'm not sure what they've used and what year they're on. Doug and Stacy, I don't know if you've ever watched them off Chris and Doug and Stacy. They do human manure. So there's different ways that you can learn and do all of that. But yeah, no, chicken compost. Just don't take it directly out of the chicken pen and throw it on your garden, because that's going to burn it up. But 18 days for a compost pile. There's no 18-day method yet. Yeah. And so, because you're going to start having where you got straw and all that once you start cleaning cages and all that stuff.
I'm back from outer space.
But yeah, so back to the hides and doing all of that. So we have some people that process the hides, and they're doing all of that. Garen is not very good at it, so he can do rabbits just fine, but he likes the rabbit gloves because it gets so cold around here. So it's nothing for us to get 26 to 32 degrees below zero, and so that those rabbit furs keep us warm. And then we've got cow hides. There's a lot of butchers will take the hides, and then they take them down, get them processed and all that, and then we can go back and get the hides. And so then those hides, those are my carpets. In a pinch, if we had more people, those would be our blankets and that kind of thing. So no, we do not sell our hides. So those are useful to us. And then you're going to have to keep the hogs handy, and the hogs need to be interested in what's going on so that they don't root too far under. So what Farmer Matt had taught me, a friend of ours that's in the community, is you'll take one of those hides and you'll throw it into their hog pen, and they'll work on that hide instead of trying to figure out how to root underneath the fencing. So there's several things that you just feed things back into your land. You want to make sure it's going back for compost. You want to make sure any animal that dies that we don't know how it died because we didn't kill it, those get buried. They get fed back to the land. We don't even take the hides. Everything goes in and gets fed back to the land. So it's a process for us. So no, we don't sell.
Yeah, that was kind of going back to, the women taking up some of that slack, thinking about, how can I make everything useful and beneficial to keep us warm? That's a nurturing, to help the household. That's a nurturing. And I've seen that on several homesteads where they'll take their hides and they do exactly what you were talking about. It goes back into the homestead somehow. And that's important to make everything feed itself, blossom, and you understand what I'm trying to say, right?
I do. Yeah, we lost one of our OGs. We lost Baby, and he was one of the very first goats that we got. And he was just old, and he died from old age. And we buried him. And right now, you should see where he's at. It's been amazing. So we have a grass that we don't like, Johnson grass, but it's getting so tall and it's so thick. He's going in and pulling it by the roots and feeding it back to the goats and the sheep. And you wouldn't think, because usually if they don't run right after it, what they are now when Darren's throwing it in there. So it's fun to watch the fact that he was able to create that where it has never been. And, we can feed it back to the sheep. So it's a cycle. Everything has a cycle, and we can do all of that. And he's also done a great job with the blueberry trees, the blueberry bushes that are back there. So hopefully we'll start getting fruit off those in the next couple of years. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, no, he's been doing great. So everything has its own garden. We're kind of strangely fed around here. Before we butcher animals, Garen always makes sure, before he kills it, we always thank it for doing what it's feeding us, and it's feeding our land and doing all of that. And we're always grateful. And so, even as we butcher, he will say words and, oh, thank you. This capicola is wonderful. I've never seen anything so big, and that kind of thing, right? So, so we're weird like that.
Well, it is a blessing.
Be a little hippie.
Yeah, it is a blessing because you are taking a life to sustain a life, and it is what it. I don't think that's corny, or it's a blessing. I think that's the perfect way. I mean, that's how we did it growing up. Now, I grew up out in the oil patch and out in the country and stuff like that. So I'm familiar with everything that y'all are saying. I just currently am not homesteading. And we would always do that. And at first I was kind of traumatized because my grandfather, he'd just go out there and wring their necks, let them run around the yard until they dropped. And my job was to go over there and pick them up, and I remember just being a little video thing. I was like, but that was Lucille. You killed Lucille. And that's when I learned that you don't name your food. You name pets, but not your food,
So we do. I'm not going to lie. So we do. So especially with our turkeys. So the Toms, we have Easter, we have Thanksgiving, and we have Christmas. But that's how we know who's labeled as to who's going where. And then if I have something that's getting ready to go to butcher, I'm like, okay, so I can tell Garen, I said, okay, I want this one over here. Go get me arm roast. Go get me lamb chop, and go get me, you know what I mean? So we do, but we don't get attached to them because we know we're getting ready to butcher them, right? So,
yeah,
naming them after the food you're going to prepare them as is a good way of naming your animals that you're going to be eating.
I think that's cool. Yeah.
Especially Kelly, when you get your rabbits, name them after different things you're going to cook, how you're going to cook them.
That sounds good. I've never heard of that before. That's a good idea, though.
Yes, I even heard that with people naming their cows.
It makes it easier, and it makes it easier for the grandbabies because, you know, like if we're at holidays or whatever, you know, my Eliza, she's just so sweet. She'll look at me and she said, "Oh, Ma," she said, "Who we eating today?" And I can tell her, so this is Thanksgiving. You know, she's 4. She's going to be 5 in November. And I can just say, this is Thanksgiving. And she's like, oh, yay, you know. And so.
That's cool.
Yeah. Well, we'll see how long that sticks for it. I'm not sure. But they come out, when they come out to the homestead, they love it. So I think the grandbabies, I'm hoping they end up taking it over if something happens to G and I.
Yeah, it's always a good to be able to have something that you can hand down to your different generations. And then also, like, if they need to help you out one day, they already know things and you already have things all set up for them as well.
Well, and she's been cooking with me since she was 2. I keep a stool around here that has bars on all 4 sides, and she can just climb up it, get right in there, stand up. And she is right at the stove and countertop or whatever. So whatever I'm cooking, the girl is learning. And I think I'm hoping, because I think she's this good, I'm hoping by the time she's 8 or 9, I can get her on MasterChef Junior. And she's pretty damn good.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's really
cool.
cool.
Going back to the gardening stuff, you know, I'm here in suburbia hell. And I'm on limited income. I get $150 a month in allowance. That's what I live off of every month is $150 cash. And I'm trying to think 10 steps ahead, right? And this might help some people. I can't see the chat, so I don't know what's going on. But I'm thinking for myself, I started this garden here. For one, it was for physical therapy. The other was to see if I could garden without any store-bought anything, just with whatever I had, you know, homemade compost and things like that. The first year, I didn't hardly get anything. I mean, I tried fish heads, fish guts. I mean, just anything natural, egg shells, just composted, you know, and nothing happened. This year, I thought, okay, hell, I'm going to take my little $150 allowance and I'm going to go buy all this stuff, this, that, and the other. And I did. And you know what? Did nothing come up. Nothing germinated, even with the store-bought stuff. And have y'all ran into anything like that? Because the only thing I can think of is my seeds didn't germinate. And
it's your soil. It's your soil. You need to fix your soil.
Well, see, yeah, that's what I did. I fixed the soil. I removed all the topsoil that was there and went and bought all brand new. I'm going to tell you, I had to cheat. I cheated. I went and bought like Miracle Grow, Texas Black Compost, organic compost. I mean, any type of whatever I thought could work and mixed it all in there together.
Your problem is the Miracle Grow.
Well, see, I didn't even use it the year before that. The year before that, I used absolutely nothing other than what was here.
Then you got to go back to your soil. So the only way that you're going to fix your soil, so you probably need some more, I wish Garen was in here. If you got comfrey, I would move comfrey into the garden and then let that kind of go in there and do all that to start working that soil and making it healthy. Try to figure out if you can get some, this is kind of expensive, but you may have somebody doing it down there in Texas that you wouldn't have to pay what you pay at the garden center. But they have mushroom compost and it's all natural mushroom compost. And so you can use that mushroom compost and you only go, use so much per, you know, how many gallons of soil and all that stuff that you're using. Because obviously you're in suburbs, so you're not going to be able to do what we all do.
Right. My whole thing was like it was an experiment. If I had absolutely nothing to work with, but with just the dirt that I had, what was going to happen? Well, apparently, it's obvious what happened. Don't shit happen.
Yeah, what a great learning curve, right? So
exactly. And I mean, it was all in. Yeah, it's all in preparation for when I get to that homestead. You know what I'm saying?
You'll be better at a homestead. So once you get to the homestead, then you're just taking soil from one area and pulling the other. The best place to get the soil from is where the woods are, because that's where the mushrooms are, that's where the leaves are, that's where all of your organic compost is already working for each other. So especially if you're going out and you're looking and tracking and doing all that, you notice when you get to a part of the forest and the ground is soft, right?
Yes.
That's the dirt that you want. That is the dirt right there that you want. That is your natural compost. In my
Right
opinion.
on.
Everybody's
Well,
got a
that
different opinion. That's fine.
yeah, no, that's good information because me being in suburbia, okay, knowing that our goal is to have the homestead. Well, okay, let's say money's tight, got to work with what I got. You know what I'm saying? Because it's all about baby steps. You know, especially when you're poor white and in America. You know what I'm saying? Right. What's up?
Some people were saying in the chat also is worms, having worms in like your compost and your soil and all that as well.
That's how you know your soil is healthy. Yes.
Well, see, that's what I don't understand. I can grow freaking worms. I got worms as thick around as my pinky finger and long as a pencil.
Everywhere that you're growing?
Everywhere that I'm growing, I've dug up all around in different spots, you know, and there's worms. I mean, so many worms, the robins are coming and pulling them up out the ground.
Okay, so let's go back a little bit. What are you having problems with not coming up? Are you having problems with tomatoes?
Everything.
Okay, so your tomatoes, you can do something as simple as Tums, and you can put, as you dig the hole or whatever, crack an egg, put the whole egg in there, and then later on you can go back. If you see that they're struggling a little bit, you can take a Tums and you can put that in that soil, and then let that go down. And you can actually go ahead and put the Tums in at the very beginning when you're digging, and then that will help it. So basically, you're missing nutrition, I think, in there. And
yeah, because it's crazy. I mean, it's literally crazy. Even the sunflowers didn't come up. In the first year, sunflowers were like mammoth, plate-sized mammoth, and now absolutely nothing.
Wait a minute. Okay, but wait a minute. Let's go back, because the sunflowers and all of that. You were telling me the location of where you're at and where you're doing this. So with that location, we've also been in a drought. We've been in a drought situation. So if you're talking about the last 3 years, especially the last 2 summers and springs, the drought could also affect that. So you might.
Do you think it could be city water? Because with that being said, water twice a day. You have to, because it gets rock hard. I mean, it just sucks it up. It's just like red sand here. And
I don't think I'm the right person to answer that, because we don't necessarily water. Because of the drought and everything that we do, we work a lot with Buffalo Seed Company's seeds, and they're a local seed company up here, and that's all they do is raise drought hardy seeds. And one of the conditions, especially when you go into contract with them, so Kelly, here's something for you as well. When you go into contract with them, because they will give you the seeds, the plants, whatever, you plant them, you go into contract. So example, on tomatoes, they automatically they've given you all these plants, they get 25 pounds of tomatoes, and then they will continue to buy the tomatoes from you for the rest of the year, the ones that are good, a certain size and all that. And they do that with all of their stuff. Tobacco, zucchini, cucumbers, the whole 9 yards. You just go on there and kind of see what they've got. Another way to earn some income and do all that. You guys would be a good location for that. But one of the requirements is you would just have to let the rain do its thing on the plants. You can't overwater them. Also, we're on rural water, or Garen's getting the hypothetical well going and cleaned out and getting that going. So we just don't do that. I wouldn't know how to compare that to city water. So I'm sorry about that.
No, you're cool. You're cool. You're cool. I mean, because I'm sure other people have these same questions or issues that are coming up that are trying to, do stuff and things like that. So it's all good.
Have you had your water tested?
Yeah, because
No,
actually
we're in
one
Lubbock,
person,
Texas. We're in Lubbock, Texas, middle of the oil field. It's already bad.
yeah, because somebody in the chat actually said they make a filter you can put on your water hose to filter out the chlorine and stuff.
There you
Yeah.
go.
Yeah, but
I
it was
know.
definitely a learning curve, to say the least. And that goes back to what you were talking about earlier about that side job stuff. That's really cool information right there.
Yeah, side hustle is a good thing on a homestead. It really is. Farmers market, you just need to figure out what your rules are in your state. Oklahoma so far is the strictest one that we have found for cottage laws. Kansas is probably one of the most forgiving states for cottage laws because Kansas University is actually working a program that's Lands of Kansas. And so anybody that's watching in Kansas, Lands of Kansas program that goes through Kansas University out of Manhattan. And they are actually working with homesteads and small cottages. You don't have to have X amount of acres or anything like that. It's just what you grow. And basically what they're fighting for our rights in order to be able to sell meat and sell our freeze-dried goods and our canned goods and all that, so that we're not stuck with USDA guidelines in the state coming out and inspecting your greenhouse so that you can sell more than 8 plants, and inspecting everything that you had so that they can say, okay, you can sell more than 2 animals and that kind of thing. So anybody that's in Kansas, again, that is Lands of Kansas program through Kansas University.
Bug out. Also in the chat, somebody put the type of filter. It's Boogie Blue Plus.
Okay.
Yeah.
Boogie Blue Plus.
Yeah.
I like that. I'm kind of giggling on that one.
Yeah. Sounds like a dance.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'd be dancing if I saw veggies coming up after 2 years that haven't come up.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm
I know
fixing to
that
leave
sounds
here anyway. Well, I'm fixing to leave here anyway. I'm going to wear some green all year round. So I figure my green thumb will work. This has been the first year that I ain't ever been able to get anything to produce.
But
I mean, in the past.
Don't get discouraged by that, please. Don't get discouraged by that, please. And so that was one thing that Grumpy told me before he even walked outside. He said, you be honest about the garden. And I was like, okay. So I get comments all the time from other YouTube channels, and they're like, I don't want to show pictures of my garden because there's weeds everywhere. And I start laughing, and I'm like, of course there's weeds everywhere. One, we are not Martha Stewart, and we cannot afford the garden staff to take care of the garden. So you do what's called, and Nicole Sauce over at Living Free in Tennessee, she calls it Garden 30. And so Garen will do a Garden 30. I will try to do a Garden 30 when I have time to do it, whether it's during the day or, at evening and that kind of thing. It could be as much as just taking the tomatoes and doing an Indian weave, right? And so trying to get those taller and making sure they're secure. I totally screwed up. We had so much rain, I didn't have time to go out and do Indian weave. So when I went back out, I had to go do the Indian weave. I'm not kidding you. Those tomatoes, they were huge. And I had tomatoes sitting down on the ground. And I'm like, how am I going to get these things up? And so then I had to go in with tomato clips. And I'm trying to weave what I can and do all that. None of us are perfect. I am not Martha Stewart. I have had stuff that I've planted that does not come up. It was super funny to me. I put a whole bunch of herbs that I needed this year out in the raised beds in the kitchen garden that I should have got. And damn poultry went in there and the dogs. The dogs are digging everything up. So I've got sweet potatoes missing. Poor Jonathan, he went in and planted all those when he was here. They're gone. And so then I go in and I'm like, where's my sage? Where are we? I'm supposed to have this. And where is all this stuff? Why do I only have sunflowers and weeds? And I go over to my freaking neighbor's house, and he said, hey, walk with me. Can you tell me what this is? And I pick it up, and I'm like, my rosemary, and it's in his driveway. And then he's like, what is this? And I'm like, my thyme. And he's like, what do you mean yours? And I'm like, the birds, because the birds will go in as the chickens and poultry and everything, as they dust bath. They loosen all of those seeds, and plus you don't bury them very deep anyway, right? It's a light dust. And so the wild birds come in, and then they're pooping them next door. And so he's got my strawberry seeds. He's got. I'm like, where did all this wild strawberry come from? Wait a minute, that doesn't look wild. And I'm like, oh, those are the damn birds got in there. Those are all my seeds. This is stuff that happens. And so you just, what you do, what we do, we just plant more than what we need. We plant in different areas. I designate a garden to the chickens. I designate a garden to the sheep and goats. Amaranth, the sheep and goats need that. They want that. It's a natural grain. So try to figure out where you can keep that amaranth that they can get it. But no, you also want the amaranth. So you need to have the amaranth on the back side of the property where hopefully they don't get to it. Because let's face it, goats and sheep are stupid and they wake up every morning and go, how can I kill myself today? So eventually
Right.
they will get out of the gate. And so, you know, you just, I'm sorry, this is homestead. I hope I'm not turning anybody off to homesteading. And everybody's like, I'm just going to be a prepper.
They're turned off from homestead and they got a weak stomach. They don't need to homestead.
But, you know, you just
Yeah,
figure
really.
those things out. But like I said, it's a learning curve. And so
Right on.
you're going to have to figure out, you know, what grows best around the chicken garden, because your chicken garden is right around the coop. So that's like when Kelly was asking about the, I can't remember, but the fertilizer, chicken fertilizer, having to be a year old. You'll find that amaranth, basil, thyme, sage, savory, the whole 9 yards. Most of your kitchen herbs will do excellent in the chicken garden around there. So will your amaranth. And so, like I said, amaranth is an ancient grain, and it's something that's very, very healthy for your body, especially if you have problems with your bone density.
I like when Yoda, when you were talking about all that on you and Grumpy's channel, different things you put into your food or whatever to help with your either immune system, like you said, bone density, anything health reason. You can have some sort of food, either herbs or whatever, added into your natural diet, and then you don't have to worry about all this crap that you get from the pharmacy.
That's all full with MSG and all kinds of crap. The seasoning packets. I don't know if you ever heard this story, but it was funny. We first moved here and we were in the height of all of the food shortages and all that. And I'm standing in the seasoning aisle because I'm looking. I'm like, okay, I need to get XYZ, because we had just moved here. And I'm like, okay, I don't have all this stuff fresh on hand. I'm going to have to get a couple things I'm missing, this, and this. Because nothing happens faster than you figuring out where your holes are in your preps when you do a move like we did. And so I'm probably sure Kelly can tell you the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
so you start figuring out quickly where your holes are. And so I was at the store and I literally had this 20-something girl literally standing next to me crying and upset because there was no meatloaf seasoning. And I'm like, what in the world? And she's like, what? How can they be out of meatloaf seasoning? And I'm like, And so it took me a minute because I'm kind of a smart ass, right? So I was getting ready to go back at her. And then I realized, okay, this poor girl's in shock. And so we'll walk her through it. So I said, here's what you need for meatloaf seasoning. I said, do you want fresh or do you want dry? And she's like, dry. And I'm like, okay. So, we go through everything. So I can't promise you the quality. I can't promise you whatever. I said, but this will work for you. And then I was also at, where was I? A grocery store called Hy-Vee. I was down in Topeka. And because I needed to get my sweet potatoes so I could get my slips started for spring. And so I went to go get my sweet potatoes, and I hear this girl, also again a 20-something, talking to the grocery manager, and she literally, like, John Willis is like from SOE. He's like, you totally need to do shorts. You need somebody to go through the store with you, and you need to do shorts on this. I kid you not. She's in a panic because you can't get bean sprouts anymore. And so he's like, we're not going to have bean sprouts. And so she's like, why? I use bean sprouts and everything. And so here I go. I'm like, so here's Yoda. I take my cart and I'm screaming around to get over there because I hear the conversation. And I looked at her and I said, let me walk you through the grocery store. I will teach you how to make your own bean sprouts. We will get you everything that you need to grow your own bean sprouts throughout the year. And she looked at the grocery manager. Instead of trusting me, she looked at the grocery manager. The grocery manager, she goes, is that correct? Is that true? And he was like, I'd follow her through the store if you really want bean
I'll
sprouts.
be like,
And
let me buy you a chia pet.
I'm like, well, right, that too. And that's basically what we did. I got her, I didn't buy it for her, but I'm like, you need this, a case of mason jars, and you need the chia seeds and that kind of thing. So, but yeah, no, it was ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. So
I love
it threw everybody off. But here's the thing: if you didn't use that opportunity to find your holes, and you didn't use that opportunity to figure out how you needed to build and what you needed to have, because now look at it, we're looking at medicine shortages, we're looking at expenses. People that are trying to live off $150 cannot go afford $1,000 worth of medicine. It's just not possible.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Yeah. I don't do it. I don't do it. If I can't find it like organically or at the holistic store or just meditate it away or whatever, it ain't happening. It's not gonna happen.
Even the Whole Food stores are getting expensive now. I was
Yeah.
shocked at what Feverview was, but I needed it in a pinch. I didn't have any already prepared. I've got it growing outside, but it's not dried, it's not prepared, it's not ground, anything like that. And so sciatic nerve. So I needed the Feverview to get through it because we were going through festival. And man, I think it was like $48 for a bottle. It was ridiculous. And so like, I don't know how people are doing it. And especially the people you see walking around with 4 or 5 kids in the grocery store. I don't understand. I don't know how they're doing
it. For one, they're not doing it, or they're gonna have to come up with ways and ingenuity and figure something out. And what scares me the most is people going and trying to plant identify and start their apothecary, and you know what I'm saying, and they've never done it before. We're gonna have a whole lot of allergic reactions and stuff.
Well,
But I've been doing that for years though.
And you're gonna have people getting sick, and then something's gonna happen. They're gonna automatically connect that to some kind of bird flu or swine flu or some other garbage that they're trying to come up with to make you take another vaccine that you don't need to have. That's not even a vaccine. And only because 2 people in America got it, and so now it's a problem. Sorry.
No.
It's all American Preppers channel, so I know I can just speak my mind.
Oh yeah.
And
yeah.
So, but so it's just crazy to me that people are doing that. I was having a conversation with another neighbor in the community. He grows mushrooms, and so but he's trying to get this on a commercial scale to do all of that, and then I will eventually, hopefully, be freeze drying that and all of that. I don't know if you're aware who Kelly Blackwell is. She's a famous author. It's Boy in 7 Billion, etc. And she has actually now moved to our community. And so now we have her, which is absolutely amazing medicine. She is the best with CBD and THC, trying to get all of that stuff done. That is actually how she saved her son's life from dying with 2. He was 10 years old with 2 cancers, 2 rare cancers that they did not know how to treat. And so you got to look up her story because Darren.
What was her name again?
Callie Blackwell. And so she's just amazing. Her son Darren is absolutely amazing. They were actually going to amputate his hand. She started putting the THC underneath his tongue once a day because they basically just told her he was going to die and they needed to amputate his hands. And they were actually planning his funeral together. And so there's a lot of medicines that we have naturally that grow here, and especially if you guys know Northeast Kansas and Missouri, marijuana grows like crazy. And
right
so, and so
it grows good in Florida too.
Yeah. Right on.
Naturally, we've got like the ditchweed and all of that stuff. But what they've said is this is all illegal. Well, the reason why it's illegal, and we actually have friends that grow marijuana for the distributors. They actually had the government come in and their marijuana hit 82%. And at 82%, that's considered medical grade. And only the pharmacies can get that. And since they were selling to a distributor, they made them burn all of the crops. All of it. Yep. And they didn't sell it. That was all medicine. Every single bit of it. And so, this is what they're doing. They're trying to control that. And then look at everything they've designated as a weed. Lesbedisa is a great grain. Sheep and goats is a great feed. The milk
Yeah,
thistle is one of the
dandelion.
best. Yeah, milk thistle is so good for you, and they've got every rancher and farmer saying you got to take it out. If you keep it controlled, then it's going to stay under control, and you've got your heart medicine in there, and you can eat from the root all the way up to the flower. And better yet, when that white comes up there, yes, those are seeds, and yes, they do fly. But if you're careful and you put bag and not let them spread everywhere by the wind, when you put that in there, did you know that the white furry stuff is actually rennet? Yeah. And so now they've taken that food source away and told you it's bad for you. And so they want you to kill it. And if you don't kill it, then they want to fine you. And so there's all kinds of examples around that. So the more knowledge that we can share with each other, the better. And goldenrod, for example, and goldenrod, once it's goldenrod, it's actually great to harvest, and there's everything for your allergies. So you don't have to go get an antihistamine and fill your body with Claritin that doesn't work, or fill it with something else that doesn't work, and things that are only hurting your body some more. The goldenrod. And so, but what do they tell you?
You say, Deoda?
Huh?
Goldenrod?
Yeah, goldenrod. And so, okay. But what do they tell you goldenrod is when it's young, right? It's ragweed. So what do you do with ragweed when it's young? You pull it out, and now your medicine is gone.
Yeah.
So it's just, you're going to have to suffer a year or two in order to get everything established and get it done if you have severe allergies. But once you have everything dried and have it on hand, like my porch is full of tarragon right now. I need to go get all the comfrey out because I got to get my comfrey salves made and get all this other stuff done. And it is what it is. But they just tell you it's all weed, get rid of it. But it's not. It's medicine. So we just have to educate ourselves and make sure that we're getting really good information. A very good one. There's several actually channels that you can go to. Heidi at Rain Country, she's one of them, and then there's several. So just go look them up and see what's going on. You'll see Heidi over at Text Channel and our channel once in a while. But she's knowledgeable, especially if you want to know vinegars. And if you can make your own vinegar, I have several people asking me to do that, show how to do it, and do videos. I wasn't going to, because I'm like, just go over to Heidi's, because Heidi shows it a lot better over at Rain Country than I could ever do for you. And now I had somebody send me a panic message in one of the feeds that we're on for Midwest Preparedness. Well, it just goes through the feed. But they're like, oh my gosh, be careful, because they were canning. And then now, of course, we know, because shrinkflation and the timeline they're trying to get everything out, you need to be careful with your vinegar that you purchase, because one is 4%, one is 5%. If you're canning, you want the 5%. And so basically people are getting the 4%, and then their food is not lasting. And so you have to be a little bit careful with that. But if you know how to make your own vinegar, I was sitting here, I took some of the vinegar that I had made, and I took my digital thermometer that I had. It's like a measurer, I guess is what it is. And so I put it in there, and I was breaking things down. And I was like, well, this one is 8%. And then I had another one, I think it was dandelion vinegar, actually, and that one ended up being at 12%. And so, it's, if you just make your own vinegar, it's so simple and stupid cheap. So instead of paying, what is it now? I think I see it at $7-8 a gallon for
It's
vinegar.
ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, and so I can go out and I can forage, and I've already got the jars on hand, and I've got the sugar on hand. And so now I can go out and forage and do my thing. And I've got vinegar for pennies on the dollar. And so, the sugar doesn't cost that much. And it's just water, sugar, and that, depending on what type of vinegar you're doing. Sometimes you need a white wine vinegar. But then also figure out how to make your white wine vinegar. And so then you're only out, you're getting a large bottle of white wine vinegar instead of paying $8 for a white wine that you have to turn around and then do the labor to do that, right? So, I don't know. It's just crazy to me, but I think we'll start picking it up. I think we're going to see a lot of the old ways coming back. I
I
don't
love
think
the
there's
old
any,
ways.
yeah,
I
I don't
love
think
them.
there's any way around it.
Yeah, I love it. The farther off I can get, the better off I am. Me personally, but with that being said, y'all, this technology tells me that my battery's about dead. We'll have to get on here and do it again. I enjoyed it, ladies. Y'all are just excellent, excellent. Learned a whole lot of stuff, and yeah, I'll be picking your brain.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you for joining us, Bug Out. And like Bug Out said, we'll be doing this again. I would like to have y'all same for 3 ladies on here again. And also we'll probably be bringing a couple more in. I want to try to do this once a week if everybody's schedules line up, same time, same place.
Perfect. Yeah, I'll be in
Sounds
Florida this time next week, so you know what's up.
Yay!
So if I tend to forget, and as much as I tease B over at Lifetime Free, I'm just as bad. I chase squirrels and I forget, and so I'm on 4 different projects. So if you really want me on there, you may need to go Yoda, and then make sure that I'm paying attention. So well, you got my last email.
Yes, I did.
So,
Yeah. Bye, Bug Out.
bye.
Hi.
But yeah, and that's another thing I want to prepare people for too, because we see that with a lot of community members that are coming in to the homesteading, and I'm just going to leave it with this. Be prepared. There's so much going on, and especially if you're trying to get off grid and you're on raw land, you're trying to figure out your water, you're trying to figure out your shelter, you're trying to figure out where you're going to store things, you're trying to figure, there's a lot going through your head. And so when there's a lot going through your head, if you were not writing everything down and you were not saying, okay, I need to get this done, I need to get simple as a whiteboard if you want, and just list everything on there that needs to be done just so that you can focus on that. But understand other people that are outside of that are not quite in that position, they don't know what your brain is going through. They have no idea. If you're another homesteader, you're like, oh yeah, your brain's swarming so bad, that's why you didn't remember dinner, or that's why you didn't, this and that. And other people will be like, well, you did that, now you've just bugged out and you just don't want anything to do with us anymore. It's not that. It's that we are so focused. So if you don't, sometimes people on the outside have to make the initiative to make sure that we're in contact. Like my poor dad would probably never talk to me if he didn't pick up the phone and call me every week. And so it's not that I don't love him, it's just we have so much going on. And so we missed dinner with friends tonight because we had the live and that kind of thing. So, you got to keep the balance. And we just said, not that we don't love you, I already committed to this, and maybe we can do it again next week. And so you just kind of figure out how to be flexible. Luckily, they're homesteaders, so they totally understood. They're actually probably watching the channel right now.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. But, so we like them. They're good people. She's actually one that I black-pilled, and I didn't have to black-pill her. And so I was just helping her. We were in Orchlands, and she had a great big huge cart of feed just piled up. And I saw what her bill was. Well, it just so happened that she was parked right next to me in the parking lot. So I paid for my stuff right after, and I'm watching her load all this feed. And I said, do you need help with that? And she was like, no. And I said, okay. And I said, so can I give you a little bit of information? And she goes, what's that? And she usually doesn't talk to people. Like she doesn't like people. She's kind of like grumpy. And so she was like, what's that? And so I started talking to her. I said, can I tell you a way that you can save money on your food bill? And she was like, yeah. And I said, do you own a truck? And she was like, yeah. And I said, go buy you a $35 dumpster bag, which is what the price was at that time. I don't know what they are now. Go get you a $35 dumpster bag, line the bed of your truck, and run up to Co-op. I said, what do you got there in feed? And I said, 1,000 pounds? And she goes, yeah, about. And I said, okay, so well, I know what you just paid. I fill up the bed of my 8-foot truck with 1,000 pounds, and it only cost me $120. You just paid $890. And she was like, what? And I said, yeah. And so we've been friends ever since. Kind of funny. And I kind of find out they're totally like-minded. And so now they're in the community and all that. So they're great people. But
That's
yeah,
awesome.
so it's just thinking outside the box like that and getting that stuff done. But hey guys, we have been on almost 2 hours. So I think I'm gonna have to bounce out as well. Are you guys gonna continue, or do we want to not run into?
Oh, I'm sorry. I was reading a comment there. We can wrap this up. I'm actually getting a little low on my battery as well. But Kelly, do you want to have any end words before we?
Yeah, I just like to say that everybody, one of the big things that I really like to do is to have hard, not like books and, paper and things like that, write things down. You never know when the internet's going to go out. But the other thing is just learn new things, like something that you didn't know how to do and you want to try it, and don't be upset or discouraged if it doesn't come out right the first time. If you have to keep trying, if something happens, if you just don't succeed at it, it's fine. We all make mistakes. It's a slow learning. A lot of this stuff is so new to some of us. Just keep trying, just keep going for it, and just never give up, and just remember what the end goal is.
Yeah. Yoda, did you want to finish anything else though?
Sure. First, I'm seeing things that are coming through my feed, and I just want to let everybody know, all of our friends that are in Louisiana, Texas, and everybody heading out to the East Coast, North Carolina, South Carolina. I bet you get cooked by it, Tennessee, that kind of thing. I want all of my friends and family to stay safe and make sure that you keep your head on a swivel and be prepared. I know you all are. And then I think the next thing I would like to say is, whatever you do as you're moving forward, do not be paralyzed by fear. And above all, be at least 1% better than you were today. And always go live a life done free.
Yes. All right. Like Yoda said to everybody, anybody, and also Kelly, y'all stay safe and over there with this hurricane. Anybody that's listening over in that area, everybody just stay safe. I know how these hurricanes can be. So, and then also I want to thank these ladies, awesome ladies, that was able to join the chat with us, give us tons of information. And everybody in the chat, I want to thank y'all for joining. And like All American always says, stay dangerous, stay safe. And I forgot the other thing. Whoops. And have a blessed day.